A Trump cabinet official has just came out and called on Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota.
Look, it's not law-abiding citizens. If that were the case, there's a lot of white men should be holding a lot of white men accountable.
To resign over this massive fraud scandal. In this scathing letter that I'm going to show you here, Education Secretary Linda McMahon says over $10 million in fraud in the college education system just in Minnesota has been fraudulently stolen, misused. For months now, the Trump administration has been warning states you don't get to take federal money and then refuse federal oversight. I would love to ask the question of you right now. If you are taking federal money, EBT, SNAP, Social Security, should there be some level of checks and balances, some level of making sure the right people are getting the right money? Because what we're seeing right now in Minnesota is just, in my opinion, a tip of the iceberg. I believe this is going to spill over into other universities that the university system, the education system, has tried to keep the federal government out of, except for their money. We're seeing it in Brown University, how we're not allowed to see some of these cameras that they have within the classrooms of this horrible and heinous incident. We saw it at Harvard. We saw it at all these elite Ivy League universities that allowed all of these Palestinian protesters. And now the Department of Education, Linda McMahon, has had enough. Trump has had enough. I believe the federal taxpayers have had enough. And the fraud that has occurred is the tip of the freaking iceberg. If you think California is not in on this, you're crazy. If you think Washington State, Oregon, Michigan, New York, all these other liberal states are not in on this game, this little bit of money cleaning system, you're crazy. And Trump is sending in the cavalry. Let's jump right into this. This is the article right now that just came out on Fox. Trump official calls on Walz to resign over a massive fraud scandal in a scathing letter saying, "Shame on you. As the governor, you should know what's been going on." Linda McMahon, education secretary, says, "You have been Minnesota's governor since 2019. Tim, at some point, you have to take the blame for this. In the Navy, we call it going down with a ship. Well, now Minnesota is finding out these warnings just wasn't talk. Trump administration's officially told the governor, hand over your SNAP receipt data, the EBT information, your voter rolls. We want to make sure the people that are voting are actually citizens. We want to make sure the people that have received EBT and SNAP benefits are actually citizens, should be in the country legally. And they've got 30 days. There's going to be no press conference, not a political threat, a deadline. And if Minnesota doesn't comply, the administration says it's ready to start cutting off federal SNAP administration benefits. And the people there are going to suffer. Sadly, that's the way that you get things done. And things went from policy disagreement to serious trouble. Now, why this matters to you? Here's the big picture. This is important under major legislation passed in Trump's second term. The message was clear. Waste and fraud in federal programs is no longer going to be tolerated. SNAP benefits. It is a privilege to receive federal funding to help pay for your groceries. The government is not responsible for your food. The government is not responsible to take care of you. Now, there are things in place to help the indignant people that are disabled, to help older people. But able-bodied people should have to work. And right now, they have to do a certain amount of volunteer hours. It's still not 40 hours a week like many of you are working. It's not that much. It's not that harsh of a system. Some of you probably think it should be. But let's get into this. Tim Walz is in hot water.
More from members and leaders from the small community to say, we need to look at ourselves. We need to hold our own neighbors accountable, because look at the damage that this has done to our community. What do you want to hear more from, instead of just saying, don't blame us. Do you want to see more ownership and oversight from within this?
Look, it's not law-abiding citizens. If that were the case, there's a lot of white men should be holding a lot of white men accountable for the crimes that they have committed.
Wait, what?
I think for
He asked him about the Somali fraud, and he says it's not about law-abiding citizens. Well, no kidding. The people that are doing this are not law-abiding citizens. They are criminals. They are Somali pirates. They took the boat, right? It's my boat now, Tim. And now Tim is going to blame shift. This is the exact method that the Democrat Party always uses. They like to blame shift. They like to emotionally control the conversation. And Tim he tries really hard here.
For the community to maybe educate their population, because I think what you're seeing here is there's secondary victims in this, that there's providers inside the community that are then victimizing the community themselves by signing them up, because when we're going to some of these people, they're like, I had no idea I was in this program. So I think it's asking us then, for every crime, which of course the majority being committed by white men, asking us to do more about that. I think it's crime in general. And I think the biggest thing on this is just making sure that we're educating the population. And again, this is 80 people or so that have been convicted in this, maybe some more in that out of a.
So did you notice there?
This guy is an idiot, okay? But it's more than just stupidity, more than that. He's trying to divide, see? He's trying to get away from the actual occurrence of a massive billion-dollar fraud against the taxpayer into white men are evil. That's a game this guy is playing. And he's a governor of Minnesota? This guy should be on the street someplace just wandering around talking to himself. This is harrowing. And it's not unique. I ignore most of it. I don't do anything on social media with these crazy people, ever. We just don't do it because they're trying to make money being crazy. Why would?
So did you notice something with Tim there in the conversation? He says a lot, but he completely avoids the actual topic, the actual question. Blaming white people, there's only 80 people convicted, 80 people divided into $1 billion is a lot of money. A lot of money. Tim Walz completely avoids the topic, avoids the actual argument. It's like if you ask somebody, why didn't you vote for Trump? Tell me one reason you didn't vote for Trump, but don't use the word Biden. They can't. Or tell me why you voted for Biden and don't use the word Trump. It's a weird dynamic, but that's what Tim Walz just did. He avoided the actual conversation, the actual problem, the actual allegation, turned it on white guys. He's a white guy, which is odd that he would flip the script on his own. I don't know what he identifies as. It's really strange to figure that out. Now, over on X, Tim Walz is getting lambasted. He is absolutely getting painted with a broad brush. There are people now asking if he should be sent to prison for allowing to happen what happened in Minnesota with this $1 billion tax fraud. And it's probably more than that. Now, Donald Trump is surging actual ICE agents into. Now, Donald Trump is taking matters into his own hands. In a massive development, 200 ICE agents are going to surge into Kansas and Ohio to arrest Somali illegal aliens. Apparently, the money has been traced and tracked to these communities, these states, Kansas City and Ohio, around Columbus. There are large Somali communities that the money has been traced and tracked to. I believe by doing this, they will get some of these illegal pirates, some of these sanctuary locals, to really start squealing on Tim. What are your thoughts on this? Were you aware that this scandal Was this big? I wasn't aware of this. I had no idea. I thought they were just good law-abiding citizens from Mogadishu that just came here as refugees because they wanted to assimilate. They wanted to learn our language. They didn't want to pray 5 times a day. No, they came here to join the Baptist church. That's what we expected. And apparently that's not true. Now, this is a clip of Tim Walz. He was 1 heartbeat away from becoming the president of the United States. His wife loves the smell of burning tires in the morning, much like many of you love the film, Apocalypse Now. You love the smell of a little of that in the morning. Tim was 1 heartbeat away from becoming the president. We would have never known about any of this if Tim Walz would have been elected vice president, because Kamala would be the president. This was fraud that we would have never known about. This is the letter that was sent from Linda McMahon, the integrity of America's federalist system, where governance is a partnership between national and state authorities, only works if state leaders uphold justice and common sense. You've been governor since 2019. During that time, your careless lack of oversight. She goes to break it all down. And I hope that Tim Walz is held accountable. I see that the Capitol is on Martin Luther King Drive, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We would expect nothing less. And Tim, I think you're in some real hot water.
Which brings me to addressing the failure of my governor, Tim Walz. We anxiously await Tim Walz's response to House Oversight Committee Chairman Jamie Comer regarding what he knew about the $1 billion in fraud. Walz has had 7 years to address and stop the fraud. It wasn't until President Trump made this a national issue that Walz started to pretend that he cares about his constituents' tax dollars supporting a terrorist group in Somalia. Accountability is coming, Governor. Our dishonest, failed governor must and will answer for his complete incompetence. Which brings me to...
I firmly believe that House Republicans will send Tim Walz a very strongly worded email, a very strongly worded memo telling him to clean up his backyard. I don't know if anything outside of that will happen, because the track record that Republicans have shown us so far, they haven't really shown us any level of consistency, tenacity, or even just justice. Feel free to reply in the comments. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Bill O'Reilly does a great job of pointing out the hypocrisy from Tim Walz and how he completely blame shifts and goes into blaming white guys. How many white guys do you know from Somalia that are stealing $1 billion? Leave their names down below. I'll forward it to the FBI. This is the Ben Dykes channel. I'll see you in the next one.